Hi, everyone. Welcome to this session of the Diana Initiative. This is Automating Threat Hacking on the Dark Web and Other Nitty-Gritty Details, featuring Apurv Singh Gautam, who's going to be our speaker today. He's going to be joining us after live with Q&A, so be sure to drop your questions in the stage room in the Q&A, and we will come back on and answer them live for you. A couple of quick announcements. I want to thank our Diamond sponsors today, Microsoft, Remediant, Verizon, Intel, Amazon Information Security, eLearn Security, Salesforce, and MongoDB. They're all over in the expo hall if you want to drop in and say hey to them and check out what they're doing. We want to thank them again for helping us put on an amazing show for you. And without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get this talk kicked off. Again, threat hunting on the dark web and other nitty-gritty things. Let's go.
Hello everyone, my name is Apurv Singh Gautam. I will be talking about automating threat hunting on the dark web and the things that surrounds it. I would like to thank the Dana Initiative for having me here. So I gave this talk in the during the DEF CON in the Red Team Village, and this will be the same talk. So I'm really sorry if you watched that talk and if you are here again. So let's get started. I will close my webcam so that you can focus on the slides. Okay, so a little about myself. So my name is Apurv Singh Gautam. I go by handle ESG Scorpion. I'm a security researcher. I started into threat hunting, threat intel 2 years ago. Currently, I'm pursuing my master's in cybersecurity at Georgia Tech. Uh, uh, Before this, I was a research intern at ICSI UC Berkeley, doing research in threat intel. Some of my hobbies include gaming, streaming. So I pretty much game every day, Rainbow Six Siege, and some other day I stream also. I love hiking. Recently, I started into lockpicking, and I've been liking it so far. Uh, I also contribute to the security community. It's like my passion contributing to the security community. I'm a senior TA at Cybrary. I also contribute to Station X, and I've been involved with many local security meetup groups. Those are my socials if you want to contact me or hit me up regarding darknet, and I would love to talk about this. So what's today's agenda? We will talk about introduction to dark web, what dark web is, how to access dark web, why hunting on the dark web. First of all, we will discuss what is threat hunting, why it is important to hunt on the dark web. We will go through different methods that you can hunt on the dark web. We'll discuss about the tool-based methods and the human element also. Then we will discuss about the hunting architecture, how hunting on the dark web can be automated, and then we will discuss about threat intelligence lifecycle, how hunting on the dark web maps to the lifecycle. I will go a little about OPSEC, why it is important, and then we will conclude the talk. So let's get started. I'm sure you must have seen these type of similar images before that discuss about that shows what's the difference between clear web, deep web, and dark web. And particularly, I like this image from others because it depicts the truth about these three categories. So as you can see, surface web. So what surface web is? Surface web is the part of the web that is indexed by search engines like Google, Bing, or Yahoo, and these are the websites that you can directly search, that you can directly get by searching on Google or any other search engines. The deep web, which is 90% here, the deep web is the web that is not indexed by search engines, so you can't directly access these websites from Google, or these are also the websites that are behind some kind of what do you call administrative portal, or you need some kind of login access to access these websites. This can include anywhere from your school database or your university's database or any company's admin portal. Then coming to the dark web. So dark web is the part of the web where you need some kind of special software to access. And these we will talk about these special softwares in the coming slides. And as you can see, 90% of the whole web is deep web, and people often confuse it because in some of the diagrams, similar diagrams, it shows dark web is like dark web contains more sites, or dark web takes more space than deep web or surface web. So this is the diagram for that. Moving on, talking about so we will talk about dark web and this whole slides. So there are many organizations that offer their services for accessing dark web. So there's Tor, the Onion Router, I2P, Invisible Internet Project, and ZeroNet. There are one or two others, but they are not that prevalent. So these are decentralized systems. So the famous one is Tor, and I2P and ZeroNet are coming up slowly. What Tor? So the domain of Tor is of the structure .onion. So at the end you will see .onion, and it can be anywhere from 16 character or 56 character. For I2P, it's similarly .I2P. So we will focus on the diagram you see here. So what is Tor, or how Tor works? So as I told you, it's a decentralized system, so there's no particular entity managing it. It's a three-layer proxy system. So as you can see, there's a entry node, middle node, and the exit node. The entry node is where, suppose in this case, Alice, she wants to access some website on the dark web. So the traffic goes through the entry node, then it goes to the middle node and the exit node, and then it goes to the destination. Uh, the entry nodes are publicly listed, so these can be found. The IP address of these can be found on the clear web. The middle node and the exit node are not publicly listed. The this system is useful for anonymization of Alice, because so the analogy of the onion router. So the analogy of onion here depicts that the traffic is encrypted in layers. So when the traffic from Alice goes to the entry node, it can only see it can only see the location of the middle node and not the exit node. So in this way, a particular node can only know the traffic can only know the location of its previous node and the next node, and no and nothing after that or before that. So in this way, entry node doesn't know the location of exit node doesn't know the location of entry node. And in this way, the IP address of the Alice is also hidden from these nodes. So moving on, what's so there are many misconceptions about dark web, and we will discuss a few of them here. So what people think whenever someone hears about dark web, they always think about the criminal things that goes on there or the illegal things, but that's not the case. There are many good things also. On the dark web. So it is like it's really important for activists or whistleblowers who can go that they can go on the dark web without getting detected or without getting uh, they can go on the dark web without getting detected, and they can post whatever they want. That's why there are many popular sites like Facebook, Times, etc., that have their counterpart on the dark web or as such .onion domains. Second thing is it's so what people think is dark web is really huge. But that's not the case. If you compare about the availability or the uptime of the websites, then there are very less onion domains that are available 24/7. But if you see on the clear web, the websites are available 99.999% of the time. So in this way, the dark web is not that huge. Another thing is people think it's illegal to access the dark web. So that's not the case. It's not illegal to access the dark web. It's illegal to participate in such illicit activities like buying drugs or selling drugs, or apart from drugs, weapons or tools. So it's completely legal to access the dark web. Also, talking about what things are on the dark web. So there are many researchers or literature or several books uh, that are not on the clear web that you can find on the dark web. So that's why dark web is not that bad. But today we will talk about the bad part of the dark web. So uh, let's talk about that part. So these are the relevant sites where uh, actors sell different things or talk about different things on the dark web. So that includes marketplaces and forums. So these are different types of marketplaces or forums. As you can see, suppose credit card forums. So credit card forums or credit card marketplace. So you will find several credit cards being dumped there, or personal documents. You will find actors talking about or selling personal documents there. Insider threads that is recently becoming popular. So here you will find people from companies selling their company secrets or trade secrets. Uh, Now coming to the products that you mostly see on the dark web is these type of products you see on the dark web, and it is very important to research on the dark web, because as you can see, many of these things are really easy to buy. Like you can buy SSN on $1. You can rent a hacker with like $12 per hour, or you can get bank details with $100,000, or critical database exploit or zero. They are expensive, but it's easy to get it on the dark web. And as you may have seen from the recent news, 500,000 Zoom accounts being sold on the dark web, or some 100,000 Facebook accounts being sold on the dark web. So that's why researching on the dark web is very important. Uh, you can see these type of listings are on the dark web, selling different types of accounts. This is the data from recent Digital Shadows white paper. So as you can see, it lists down the average cost of one account for different online services. As you can see, the bank and financial costs higher to get a bank or financial account, and as compared to others. This is again the average price of brute forcing tools for different industries. So coming to the part why hunting on the dark web. Also, before that, what is threat hunting? So threat hunting is the proactively searching for cyber threats. What do you mean by proactive is searching for cyber threat that has not been happened yet. So it's like looking through logs, looking through indicators of compromise. Indicators of compromise includes IP address, hashes, email address, domains, etc. Looking through textual data that we usually do in case of dark web. And it's basically hypothesis based approach, because there is nothing concrete about it. You take one use case, you search on that, and you get the results, and then you go for the another use case. And in this way, it's like iterative searches. Most of the time in threat hunting, advanced analytics and machine learning is useful, especially in case of textual data that we get from the dark web. You can use NLP or machine learning to reduce your workload and get data analyzed pretty quick. So why it's important? Why threat hunting on the dark web is important? As I told you, there are many forums, marketplaces, or dump shops on the dark web, and different types of forums. Uh, these like criminals or the actors, they learn new methods and techniques in these forums. They monetize their skills. They trade their exploits or tools, drugs, weapons, etc., and they communicate with each other about new techniques or about hacking something. So this is why researching on the dark web is important, so that you can know what these actors are actually doing, or what these actors are thinking about or talking about. It can help identify compromised assets, as you may have heard, like within past 2 or 5 years, many companies' databases are being leaked on the dark web. So it is you can identify which assets are being sold on the dark web, and uh, in this way it can help identify attacks in earlier stage, like planning stage or recon stage of your attack cycle. Uh, and another thing that we can talk about, it's useful to talk about, are the impacts. The dark web research is really important, because if you find your data on the dark web, then you can reduce the impacts that it causes on the organization. Some of the direct impacts are personal information loss or trade secrets loss, and some of the indirect impacts are obviously reputation loss, revenue loss, and nowadays it's legal penalties, uh, like covering your customers' cost. So in this way, it is important to search on the dark web, or it is like the dark web research or the dark web part is important. Similar to that, these are the benefits of the threat hunting. So if you research on the dark web, you can keep up with the latest trends of the attacks. You can find new tactics, techniques, on procedures. You can find new IOCs. You can better prepare your SOCs or incident responders, so that when attack happens, they can tackle with it in less time. You can discover new data breaches and in turn reduce damage and risk to the organization. So now coming to the part of what you can use to hunt on the dark web. So we'll talk about some tools that you can use to hunt on the dark web, and then the human element that forms that can be used with along with the tools. So coming to the tool parts, first of all, talking about the language these tools are written. So there are many tools written in JavaScript also. JavaScript also. There are many tools written in Python also. Nowadays in Go also. But I still like these tools that are written in Python. They are reliable. At least I haven't faced any issues with them so far. So talking about the first tool, that's Scrapy. So Scrapy is a web crawling framework, and it's like so Script is a web crawling framework that has multi-threaded capability. You can scrape multiple sites in a few little amount of time. Um Another is Tor. Tor is obviously, if you want to access the dark web, you need Tor. Onion Scan. Onion Scan is an open source tool for investigating different onion domains to identify whether the domain is up or not, and different correlations between different onion domains. Now, before talking about privacy, I would like to talk about uh, the how you access Tor. So you don't access Tor directly. You need to access Tor behind some kind of proxy or VPN. This is because, as I told you before, the entry nodes of the Tor is visible or publicly listed. So your ISP can make a block list of all the entry nodes, so that you can't access the dark web. You can't access the Tor. That's why you need some kind of proxy to access the dark web. Here we generally use SOX proxy. So little brief difference between HTTP and SOX proxy is that HTTP proxy is only for HTTP protocol. HTTP proxy works on the HTTP protocol, and SOX proxy works on SOX protocol. The difference between these is HTTP proxy only allows HTTP data to flow through, but SOX proxy can allow any kind of data to flow through. And about Scrapy, so Scrapy doesn't allow SOX proxy directly, like SOX proxy IP directly to be written in their program. That's why we use some kind of routing tool. In this case, Privoxy. There are others like TSOX, Polypo, and many more. What Privoxy or other tools does is they take the SOX proxy and route through the like they use their own proxy, they use their own IP, and then you can write it in Scrapy, and it will route your traffic through SOX proxy. So And there are other tools like there are search engines like Kilos, Recon, and other tools like Onion, Wiki, Torch, where you can find all the Onion domains and search for different Onion domains. So let's talk about Scrapy because this is our main uh, framework that we work on, and all the codes for extracting data, starting from extracting data to analyzing data, is written here. So this diagram might seem a little like confusing, but I will go through it one by one. So for explaining this, let me break it down to simple steps. So first of all the things that you see here, suppose these are different Python programs. So Spider is a Python program, Downloader is a Python program, Middleware is a Python program, Pipeline is a Python program, and Scheduler is a Python program, and Engine is another Python program. So what we do in Spider's Python program is we give a URL .onion domain to the spiders to the spider program gives it to the engine. What engine does is engine is like you it's the main middle part of the Scrapy that manages every other Python program. So you can assume it that way. So engine gives it to the scheduler. Now scheduler program has all the multi-threading capability, like I told you before. So scheduler will schedule each domain with different threads, how many you have assigned it to. So scheduler will get the domain, it will give it back to the engine, and the engine will give it to the middleware. So what middleware program has, so it has your login function and your proxy function. So talking about proxy functions, this is where you will put your socks IP, put your tor IP, or put your privacy IP, so that the request and response go through that and come back through that. And the login program, so uh, many forums, like almost all forums, require some kind of login access before you can access the data. So in the login program you will write your uh, cookie data, or your username ID, username password that you can use to access the you can use to log in on that particular forum. Many forums they are behind CAPTCHA, and as you know, Google CAPTCHA can't be used on, so it's mostly email based CAPTCHA, and it can be bypassed with different services. Either you use some kind of Python script, or you can use online services like Death by CAPTCHA or Anti CAPTCHA, and they can solve your CAPTCHA within like few seconds or under a minute. So so login function has these all things. So your request goes through this middleware Python program, and it goes to the downloader. What downloader program does is it simply downloads the HTML page and sends it back to the engine. The engine sends it back to the spider. Now the spider has another function which extracts the elements. So whatever HTML element you want to be extracted, like your table information, your item information, your textual data, you extract it, and in Scrapy these are called items. So you extract all these HTML elements into the items, and then these items will go to the item pipelines. And now at item pipeline, you have defined your database. So I usually use Elasticsearch. You can use any database, whether SQL or NoSQL, and the items are stored into the SQL. And this process repeats as uh, multi-threading is already in place in Scrapy. You don't have to write any other code. You just have to specify how many threads you want for your Scrapy to run, and it will run automatically. So that's why Scrapy is very useful while getting data, while scraping any kind of website, not just dark web, uh, a clear web also. So that's why I use Scrapy that so much. So moving on, as I talked about, we discussed some tool-based concepts. Now we come to the human element part of the dark web, like how can we hunt using humans? So Humint or human intelligence. So it's a process of gathering intelligence using uh, contact, like interpersonal contact, or in other terms, engaging with the actor rather by any other technical process. And this is the most valuable source because you directly engage with the actor, and you try to find out what he's thinking about, whether he is trying to attack some company, whether he's trying to attack some organization, or uh, what different actors are talking about them, talking among themselves. And this is why it's really like it's very dangerous and difficult form of intelligence, because you directly talk to the what do you call actors. And you can just think of it as a high-tech equivalent of an FBI undercover agent going uh, like spending years or months infiltrating a criminal organization. So he goes to the criminals. In this way, you talk to the actors here. So that's why it's dangerous and also difficult at the same time. And it helps you understand the motives and like motives behind the attacks, or motives behind the actors. What are they thinking about? And you in a, like if you're doing human intelligence, you have to become one of them. uh, Again, thinking about the analogy of FBI undercover agent, that so he spends months and years working to infiltrate, so you have to spend a lot of time. That's why it's time consuming, so you have to spend a lot of time working uh, to infiltrate, to even talk to the actor, or like make your foothold in the on the dark web. And it can be used so it can be used to bolster your threat hunting process using tool bits. So it can be used like for example, it can be used in post attack investigation. Suppose an attack has happened and someone is selling database on the dark web, so you can go on the dark web and talk to the actors and see if the database they are selling is like is it fake or not. Or it can also be used for a new attack vector discovery, so you can identify new TTPs, that's tactics, techniques, and procedures, uh, so that you can know before the attack happens that these new TTPs are being circulated in on the dark web, and you can like prepare SOCs or incident responders again for you can prepare SOCs and incident responders for tackling if ever the attack happens to your organization. So now coming to the automated part. So can dark web hunting be automated or not? So first of all, for automating dark web or for doing any kind of dark web hunting, you should have some kind of lab setup. And now this lab can be anything from a lab environment or a VM. It can be anything from physical or cloud. The main thing is to isolate the network. You should not have anything uh, of like personal on that network. And obviously, you have to install these relevant tools like Scrapy, Privoxy, Tor, or if you're using Elasticsearch, then Elk and other Python libraries. Now, this is the automated hunting architecture that I will talk about here, and how you can automate this. As you can see, there are small automate icons on the parts that can be automated. Some parts cannot be automated, or it is difficult to automate it. Specifically, two things here: the Scrapy setup and the designer train and NLP model. So let's talk from the start. The dark web links. So for hunting on the dark web, you need links of different forums, and you can automate. So you can use, like I told you before, you can use search engines like Recon or Kilos or any other different. So like a Torch or a Tor wiki to get the forum links. So this part can be automated. You can write a script to get all these links. The other part was SOX proxies. So so you need SOX or some kind of proxy to access the dark web, and we talked about mostly use SOX proxies. So you can write a simple script to again get all the SOX proxies. So this part can also be automated. Now coming to the Scrapy setup part. So each forum has a different architecture. So you have to go on the forum whenever you get a onion domain. You have to go to the forum and then look at the architecture, like HTML architecture of the forum, and then write a spider for each forum. So this can't be automated because again you have to manually go to the forum and see what fields or what HTML elements you want to be extracted. So the Scrapy setup includes this, and again you have to go and register different accounts on the domain on the forums. You can automate the register part, but again you have to manually go to the forum first to see how the registration works, how the login works. So this part all comes in Scrapy setup. So this whole part is automating this whole part is difficult. And again so you get you register all those domain you register different accounts on these forums. And for logging in also, so you need to set up, suppose you're bypassing captcha, so you have to bypass captcha, so you have to set up different services like death by captcha or anti captcha or any python program, python script that you are including to bypass the captcha. So you have to write it, you have to do this during this creepy setup. So that's why it's not like it's difficult to automate this whole part. Now the further things that you see, crawler, parser, and analyzer, this whole thing I talked about in Scrapy. So what crawler does is it crawls the HTML pages of the forums, it gets the forums HTML page. Parser is like it parses the HTML document and gets the elements, HTML elements in terms of items in Scrapy. And the analyzer, so this is where you use different techniques to analyze, whether you use some kind of regex to get the data that you want, or use some kind of NLP techniques to analyze the data and then put it into your database of choice. So again, designing and training NLP model here. So you need data. So what nowadays people usually do is like they use NLP to filter out the data that they don't want. So as there are many like most of the forums, they don't have relevant data all the time. You get many, like you get 60 to 70% of irrelevant data. So that's why you need to filter out those data. And NLP can be as you know, these are textual data, so NLP models can be used to filter out these data. And that's why I use NLP. Like you train your NLP model and then you use your NLP model for analysis purpose. And this is again why it can't be automated, because you have to get the data and you have to train the NLP model first and then use it here. So in this way, this can't be automated. But for most of the part, this architecture has been working for me, and most of the tasks are being automated here. So we talked about hunting, we talked about different tools, how we can use what tools to hunt on the dark web. Now let's talk about what happens after you got the data. Like you got the data, you analyze the data, what you can like what to do with the data. So here we will talk a little about threat intelligence lifecycle and how the things that we did, like hunting from the dark web, getting the onion links and all, maps to the threat intelligence lifecycle. So as you can see, there are 5 steps to the TI lifecycle. That's direction, collection, processing, analysis, and dissemination. The direction part was getting the data from the dark web. So the direction part was uh, like figuring out what which forums to go for. And this we will talk more about this. So it's like threat modeling of your entire organization. That comes under the direction part. The collection part is where we got the data from the dark web. That's human resources, as you can see on the right top. Processing part is processing, like parsing raw HTML data, machine translation, extracting topics, extracting HTML elements. Analysis part is where you infer relationship between the data, like you use NLP model, you use ML models to link data sources, identify trends or hacks and leaks. And dissemination is where you visualize all these into dashboards, alerts, or reports, and then forward it to your higher managers for them to look at. So this is a crux of how threat hunting from the dark web and getting the data analysis part. This all maps to the TI lifecycle. Now we will go a little into the detail part. So talking about threat modeling. So what threat modeling is, like, you identify critical assets of your organization and then you try to protect it and from the attackers. So while identifying critical assets, you understand what attackers can what attackers can on what part attackers can attack on any organization. So in this way, you understand the capability and intent of attackers and how they can uh, how they can attack your organization, what they can use. And another thing is different type of actors like activists, insiders, criminal groups, or geopolitical groups. Anything can be can attack your organization. And here, while defining critical assets, you choose your target on the dark web. So whether you want to focus on dumb shops or whether you want to focus on insider threats forums. Suppose, for example, if you're a bank, you will mostly focus on the dump shops where credit cards are being dumped. So in this way, this is why you do threat modeling and you define your critical assets, and in this way you prioritize your risks. Now moving on, the data collection processing part. So you collect from different sources. Uh, for it to be useful to your organization, you collect from the dark web also, and you collect from the clear web also. So you can find many things on the Pastebin, Twitter, Reddit, and nowadays Telegram also, where actors talk amongst each other. And by combining all these sources, it is useful to your for your organization to tackle or to get most out of this threat hunting process. The data analysis part is, as I told you about, as I talked about before, you can use NLP, ML, or DL techniques to analyze the data. You can use social network analysis to like analyze the users on the darknet or on the clear web also, and how they relate to each other. Here comes the part of classification and clustering. So you classify different forums, you cluster different products according to the categories. And I will talk little about MITRE ATT&CK here. So what MITRE ATT&CK is, it's knowledge base of adversary, TTPs, based on the real world observations. So you can use MITRE ATT&CK to map the intelligence you obtained to better understand the TTPs that can be used by your SOCs and incident responders to tackle new attacks from the actors. So now coming to the OPSEC or operational security. So why maintaining OPSEC is very important. Why first of all, we will discuss what is OPSEC. So it's the practice of hiding yourself online by disassociating your online presence with your real self. So in other words, you hide your personal things uh, while being online or while being active on these forums. Uh, this is basically OPSEC. So in this, OPSEC is like you protect your personal information from leaking outside, or you protect your the whole operation from leaking. It's derived from the US military. The things that you protect is your personally identifiable information that includes your full name, SSN, driving license, or bank account, or even email or email address. And the main thing to note here is what people generally think is like they have to focus on they have to maintain OPSEC while doing human intelligence or while hunting on the dark web. And it should not be like that. People should not think of this as another job requirement or like job process. It should be a mindset. You should think of OPSEC before even uh, like thinking of doing human intelligence on the dark web. And OPSEC is hard because at the end of the day we are all humans, and we like to be seen as knowledgeable in front of others, and this leads to gossiping, bragging, or like oversharing things that you should not share. So that's why it's like hard thing to do. I will discuss a few things that you can do to maintain your OPSEC while doing human intelligence stuff on the dark web. Uh, the main thing is like you have to start this from the beginning. You can't do it like in the middle, or you can't just think of, okay, I have to apply OPSEC now. I have to start this at like after so many days you have started doing human intelligence stuff. So it should be the initial thing that you think of. The another thing is using an isolated system, isolated environment, whether VM or whether lab, and you should not keep your personal information or any personal documents on that system. You should use Tor over SOCKS proxy or over VPN. Using it over VPN is more useful as it encrypts data, and yeah, the SOCKS proxy doesn't encrypt your data. Another thing is, so why, as I told you about, it's an equivalent of an FBI agent going undercover. So he has some kind of persona. He has some kind of backstory. So you have to maintain personas while accessing different forums, and you have to make different personas for different forums, uh, so that you don't like no one can like get who you are. No one can even guess who you are while looking at similar personas. So, and this is why you take notes, because it's easy to mix personas, and that's why you have different personas for different forums, and you take notes for that. Another thing is OPSEC. So, uh, human intelligence stuff is 24 by 7 thing. It's not like you go to job and you do it 7 to 5 or 9 to 5, because the actors, they can guess like you are a researcher and you are not a real actor. So it's human intelligence stuff. You have to do it like on weekends also, or like at night. So that's why here the OPSEC comes into the part, because you can't just do it like 9 to 5 and throw away your identity. Like they can actors can guess it. So that's why you have to maintain this uh, what do you call, you have to maintain this way of accessing the dark web, or spending time on the dark web. And another thing that comes here is, so many forums are in different languages, whether they are in a Russian forums, or whether they are German forums. So you have to change your time zones. So if you access a dark web from, suppose you access a Russian forum from US, so it can give away your identity. It can give away your like operation. So it's better to change the time zones. And on the similar lines, you have to learn special skills like learning Russian, or learning certain slang skills that actors talk among themselves. And the last thing is using password managers, because you obviously you should have password manager. So that was it. Concluding the whole thing, we talked a little about dark web, what dark web is, how to access the dark web. We talked about dark web forums and dark web marketplaces. We talked about what threat hunting is, why you should hunt on the dark web. We specifically talked about Scrapy and how it is useful to hunt on the dark web. Then we talked about human intelligence and how it can bolster your threat hunting using the tools. Then we talked about the automated threat hunting, like dark web hunting, like architecture. We talked a little about threat hunting lifecycle and how this all maps to the TI lifecycle, and a little about operation security and how you can employ operation security in your daily lifestyle. Uh, moving further, dark web threat hunting is hard, but it's worth the effort. you don't get the intelligence that you get from the dark web anywhere else. You should always keep operational security in mind. Uh, the another thing was I told you about looking at more than one resource. You should look at more than one forums, and you should also hunt on the clear web and the dark web. It takes a lot of resource and a team effort, but it's worth the effort. And I talked a little about usage of multi-attack framework on the dark web, like from a dark web data. These are some of the resources that you can look on. The like big ones are Recorded Future, Insight, CrowdStrike, Digital Shadows. Yeah, thank you. I hope you all like the thank you. I hope you all like the talk. If you want to know more about this, you can hit me up on Twitter or LinkedIn. I would be happy to help. I can talk about darknet all day. And yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, I was watching the chat on the stage for this, and so many questions. Thank you to everyone who was also chiming in with answers and questions. So let's give a minute here for Apurv to start and to join us here. He's coming back online, and we will start taking some of the questions. Again, don't forget to fill out the survey. And I will quickly announce now while we're waiting that if you haven't already heard, today's keynote is pushed back 30 minutes, just to give us time to all take a breath, regroup, and come back and really give that a lot of time and attention and focus. So let me just make sure that he's coming in. There he is. Hello.
Hi.
Hey, that was fantastic. I imagine you might have seen some of the chatter go by. A couple of questions that came through that I wanted to expand on. They were slightly answered in the chat, but one of them was, so, you know, the question came up, is the dark web legal or illegal? And you said, yeah, it's legal to go on the dark web in the United States. But are there any concerns about, are you waiving any rights, or are there any other concerns as far as the US government may stand if you go out onto the dark web?
Not talking about just US. There are other countries, like you can access dark web from majority of the countries. I don't know specifics about some countries that it may have on like any rules regarding accessing dark web. Most of the time they block accessing dark web, but you can circumvent it using proxy or VPNs. So I don't think there's anything illegal about accessing dark web as far as I know.
Okay.
But the thing is, if you indulge in any like illegal or like such practices, then that's illegal. So
Great.
yeah.
Okay, so proceed with caution, maybe know your local laws, and like you showed, set up a very isolated lab so that there's nothing there that identifies who you are.
Yep.
Great. One question did come up, elk. We think we got an answer in the chat, but we wanted to verify, what did elk stand for on one of your diagrams?
So it's Elastic, Logstash, and Kibana. So basically, nowadays it's called just Elastic Stack, but 3 to 4 years before, it used to be called as Elk Stack.
Got it. Great. Great. So one of the other questions that came up is VPN. So you mentioned using VPNs, and there was some chatter about different VPNs, and I don't know if this is something that you can answer directly, but do you have a best practice around choosing a VPN service?
What I think what most of the people do is they look for a particular VPN that doesn't store logs. But then again, the another question comes is whether they say they don't store logs and they still do. So that's a difficult thing to, like, you can't figure out whether they really store logs or not. But yeah, I mean, there are some famous ones like Proton VPN or NordVPN, who are like, I know about Proton VPN, it's in Switzerland. So you can look at these VPNs that has some good data retention, what do you call data privacy laws, and choose your VPN. Another thing I think I saw in the chat about using your own VPN. So yes, you can create your own, like just spun up a DigitalOcean server and create your own VPN. So that is also a good idea.
Good. Excellent. All right, so I'm checking the chat for any other questions here. I think that was it that I saw come through. There was sort of, maybe we just touch back on this quickly. We have about a minute left. Some of the benefits. So you outlined that you can definitely find more information and better protect maybe your company and yourself through threat hunting on the dark web. At the end of the day, for the average person, is the risk worth the reward, in your opinion?
So for the like what average person looks on the dark web is mostly like they're just curious, like what goes on the dark web, and majority of the time people go on the dark web just for looking at some kind of books that they know that's on there. But again, it's very hard to find those books. Like I've seen myself, it's not easy to find those research or those books on the dark web. And I mean, I can't say if it's useful, like if you compare it to like whether it is useful or whether it's worth the risk or not. But it's hard to find normal.
You must be in California. We're under evac in certain parts around here. So
I'm sorry, you can't hear me.
No worries. We're at the end of time anyways. So please fill out the surveys. Don't forget the raffle. Thank you so much for an amazing talk. We had such a good conversation around this. I really appreciate it all. And the next talk will be on the stage in about 9 minutes. Thank you, everyone.